щоб ми розпочинали останню частину нашої сьогоднішньої конференції. Для початку, in the beginning, we will have video address from Andrew Furco. He's really well-known scientist, researcher, and practitioner in service learning. I think he's probably the most cited person in the topic of service learning. I must admit that Andrew is, he was very, when I wrote to him an email that we will have such a conference and would you like to address the conference participants, I received response very, very quickly. So he really wanted to say something to us, and I would like to ask our technical team to show us his address to us.
Hello, I'm Andy Furco from the University of Minnesota in the United States, and it is a great pleasure to have this opportunity to be with you for this conference. I want to thank Vice Rector Patska and the conference committee for inviting me to share a few perspectives with you. Indeed, today we find ourselves in a rapidly evolving global society that is facing many disruptions. And, you know, interestingly, recent surveys conducted by the World Economic Forum and Ipsos and other organizations reveal that false information is seen as the #1 major threat worldwide. Other threats include terrorism, war, climate change, economic anxiety, artificial intelligence, and political polarization, disillusionment. So I guess for us, the question becomes, what is the role of higher education? Or maybe even what should be the role of higher education in light of these conditions? For sure, universities cannot remain quiet sanctuaries while the world outside is in turmoil. And during these times of deep societal, environmental, and political disruptions, higher education must step forward as both an anchor of stability and an engine for positive change. Now, fortunately, we are seeing higher education institutions across the globe rising to the challenge of promoting academic and organizational transformation that is shifting higher education away from traditional insulated ivory towers to becoming more outward focused, community engaged institutions, intentionally focused on being active agents of positive change across societal ecosystems. Education is no longer just about passing exams or earning credentials to secure a stable job. It is about equipping resilient, critical thinkers who can navigate uncertainty and heal fractured society. Now, in thinking about this, I'd like to posit that this modern era of disruption demands that we in higher education remain centered and remain firm on two commitments. First, we must remain anchored in truth. We must fiercely protect evidence-based research against the rising tide of digital misinformation and public and political polarization. Academic integrity and the anchoring of truth are key to deriving evidence-based solutions to today's complex, intractable societal challenges. Higher education is the standard bearer and holder of that integrity and truth, and we must never let go of it. Second, we must be the driver of solutions. We must be the driver of solutions. As community anchors, higher education institutions require that we connect with local communities and regional communities to solve real-world crises rather than just studying them from a distance. It is through practices such as service learning that we can ensure that education not just remains relevant, but remains a contributing anchor for positive change. And I mentioned service learning in particular because it has shown to be a powerful and effective approach to implementing solutions to critical societal issues. And that at its core is the principle of building relationships, of bringing together students and faculty members and community members to work in community together and in solidarity to derive solutions to complex societal issues. And throughout the world, we have great examples of how members of academia and members of the community through service learning derive and implement positive societal change, demonstrating dedication, fortitude, and resilience, often under the most challenging and difficult circumstances. And this model of resilience and empowerment and solidarity through service learning, it is perhaps nowhere more evident than in Ukraine. The inspiring work of ServU, as well as other efforts across the country, had demonstrated how, despite strife, unrelenting attacks, and much danger, there has remained an unwavering hope among faculty and students and community partners who willingly step up to be agents of positive change. It is also a testament to the university leaders in Ukraine who understand the social role that their institutions play and who support and champion service learning and community engagement work. In many regards, Ukraine's service learning efforts are exemplars, global exemplars, extraordinary examples of resilience that contribute to building new global understandings of service learning practice, not only as a resilience-oriented education model, but as a model of societal recovery. The Ukrainian service learning model is one in which participants have had to continually shift and adjust and adapt as conditions have unexpectedly and substantially changed, requiring participants to find new ways and new outlets to meet community needs. The model has shown us the fortitude and resilience within a nation of people who are willing to step up to do what is needed when it is needed. Ukraine's service learning model shows us what a sustained commitment to service learning and community engagement can do for the recovery of communities and of a nation. It is a truly inspiring model, and one from which all of us can incorporate more effective and impactful service learning efforts in our own communities. So in closing, on behalf of those of us across the globe committed to advancing service learning and community engagement in our educational institutions, I want to express my deep gratitude to the great service learning champions and dedicated participants in Ukraine and throughout Europe, and to the resilience and fortitude of the Ukrainian people, who continue to serve as a source of immense inspiration to so many of us around the world. And as we strive to manage these trying times, let us consider the ways that higher education can be an active driver, an active participant in addressing the current societal shifts and challenges, and let us always anchor our work in evidence and truth. Let us embrace these evolving responsibilities as we strive to transform higher education institutions into more engaged universities that foster collaboration, partnership, and solidarity to build a more welcoming, compassionate, and peaceful world. Thank you.
Now I will switch into Ukrainian because the last part of our conference will be in Ukrainian. Those who need translation, they can somehow, there is a system how they can do it. Отже, я зараз
Right
хочу
now, I would like to invite
запросити
to the
на цю
stage two
сцену двох
rectors.
ректорів.
I would like to invite
Василя
Vasil
пана Василя
Karpusha,
Карпушу з
representing
Сумського
Suma State University,
національного університету університету. Неправильно я сказала. Я неправильно, Боже, що я сказала? Сумського державного
Yes, the
університету.
Suma State
Я
University.
говорю, я розумію, що я не те говорю.
Apologies for making a
Я маю
mistake
екскюз.
in
Я
the
вам
name
скажу,
of the
чому я
university.
сказала, я маю екскюз на це. Запрошую вас, пане Василю.
Mr. Harpusha, please join us here. And I also invite Taras Dobko, the rector of the Ukrainian Catholic University, to join us here.
Дивіться, тепер я буду пам'ятати. Я тут хочу
I will also take a
Так,
seat, and
тому
also
що
I would
попередила
like
всім,
to
що ця
let you
дискусія
know
буде
that
транслюватись на YouTube.
there is going to be a live YouTube
Тому що
stream.
все, що ви скажете,
It means that we are not going to edit anything.
Вибачте з тим, що я сказала
And
неправильно
apologies
на
once
початку
again
вашого.
for the
Ой.
misnomer of the university. It's been quite a long day for us, and well, we know that it's really important for us to elevate the level of our discussion. We started with some practical cases, discussions, then communities, international corporations, and now you, as the people responsible for the entire institutions, are here representing this panel. And one of the first questions that I have is, how you see the change of the role of universities in times of war, and how it is changing actually this role? I think that we have already raised this issue and we had many ideas expressed around this topic. So it's important that you surprise us or that you sum up the information. We had very many ideas expressed. Yaroslav also discussed it extensively. So with all the panel discussions to this or that extent, we brought it up. So how do you see? What is your take? How do you feel it? What's your perspective? I would really like us to have some simple conversation, human oriented. It's all about people. And yes, people sometimes make mistakes. And I made a mistake with the name of the Summa State University. Glory to Jesus Christ. Dear friends, I'm excited to welcome you here. I will start with a personal sentiment, if I may, because 2018, 2019, when it all started, together with the Olas who are present here, we were thinking, how do we immerse our community into this culture? Because, of course, there was a strong presence of the culture of service, and we really wanted to add the methodological element to marry an educational process with volunteering. And I feel really thrilled to see what we have already achieved, what is happening right now, that we are not alone, and that we are very serious about this movement, the movement of service learning. It goes without saying that the war is the thing that changes many of the beliefs that you have, and it goes in different ways. It's about the mission of the university. It's about the role that you have at university. For me, it was very important to understand that in this slightly crazy world, universities should be really mindful about their mission to be communities of common sense, to be those who take this great responsibility for maintaining common sense, human mind, because it's really important to take a value-based approach in this world, which is becoming more and more cynical. Another important point for me was the understanding that the university is a beacon of hope, because for many instances we see that this is exactly the role that university has. And we know that hope is a paradoxical thing because it combines different things. We have a sentiment to strive for more, and also it is about humility and patience. In modern world at universities, young people who join the universities, they really join the universities if they are ready to learn more and to get this very profound knowledge. When we started computer sciences, some other faculties, applied sciences, and we had this concern, and what about our second-year students? What if they immediately start working? How do we retain them as our students? Because you know that if it is an 18-year-old young person, they already start making a living in this particular field. They think that they know it all, that the sky's the limit. But we understand that the ambitions go down. They become developers, programmers, software engineers, and it was so important for us for people to have better understanding of human problems, those who have a lot of imagination and those who really want to learn more. However, universities is about long-term perspective. And in this long-term perspective, it always takes patience to do something. That is why universities, as well as other institutions, have this experience. When you sow something and then you will see the harvest later. Alexandra Matvichuk said that when we speak about hope, it's not about this easygoing perception of life. It is about a firm conviction that what we do right now makes sense, despite what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And we are ready to wait. We are ready to continue sowing, and we will reap what we sow. We will yield fruit. We build bridges between the generations. This understanding of the impact that we have on future generations, people, vision of the future, it's significant what we do. Another important aspect is understanding that the university is the place where the sovereignty of the state is built, the agency. Actually, because this agency is important at both individual, institutional, and national level. I think that my colleague will speak about that in our universities, it's important to have quality and competitive education and science. Actually, it's not about us importing professionals from abroad. It's not about importing safety from abroad. That is why universities are deeply engaged in building safety through science, but also through academic diplomacy. That is why we open for ourselves the importance of this agency that we have from the perspective of academic diplomacy for delivering Ukrainian narratives and spreading these messages, interacting not only with our academic partners, but also with the public opinion of those countries which support us. I wanted to say that the Ukrainian Catholic University is opening an agrarian faculty. This is what we will see in papers tomorrow. But yes, let's give the floor to Vasil Karpusha, Suma State University. Yes, first of all, I would like to welcome everyone who's gathered here. It's a great pleasure for me to be present here at the Ukrainian Catholic University. The philosophy behind this project, as we all know, that it really fits this university. This is an organic part of your history, the history of the Ukrainian Catholic University. That is why it's really great that you became the leaders in this domain and the national one. Yes, you were absolutely right. In the past, we were the national university, and several years ago, the students had a gathering, a forum. Nezasnu, that was the name that they gave to this event. It was the National University, but it was also a sad story for us. I agree with Taras with regard to the mission and roles of universities. However, we know that we have a variety of different regions, and our missions they also vary because before the war we were the university close to the border, and now we're a frontline university. Of course, we're a much smaller city as compared to Lviv. We have only 3 universities, a pedagogical university, a very powerful one, and it's really important actually to bring it into focus. We became a monopolist. We heard it from Oksana, the representatives of our territorial community, about the state university that we have in Suma. That is why this project is really pivotal for us. We know that the more successful the community is, the more successful the university is. A little bit of statistics. Almost 50% of our students were not from Suma region. We had up to 30% of students from other countries. We had partnerships with 55 countries. So we were an international university. Now, mostly these are students from Sumy, from the city region, and of course, not the entire region, because that part which is closer to Poltava goes to safer regions. That is why we absolutely understand that this project, aiming at strengthening the interaction with territorial communities, is of paramount importance. We are part of the community. The more successful the community is, the more successful the university becomes. To some extent, actually, this is some profile-oriented project, because in the community we have parents. They see the university, they see the students, smart students, diligent students, and they think, why not? Why not Sumy State University? And there are two different ways of stressing the name of the city, by the way. It could be Sumsky. The mission of the university, this is a frontline university, actually, and I would like to provide another example here. It was really important for us to make sure that our archive is safe, and it was a very timely decision that we took. There are different parts in this time right now. We were surrendered, then there was the Kursk operation when we didn't really have the front there, so we had to relocate the archive. And then there was some panic in the city when people learned that we are relocating the archive. So what's going to happen? The city took this decision, but actually there were 4 Shahid attacks targeting the building where we had our archive materials. There was a fire after that. There was another strike immediately, and it was not easy actually to handle the consequences of what happened. But for us, the philosophy of the UCU, and they have been our partner for a long period of time. It's a great pleasure for me to be present here at this event and to share this stage with Taras at this session. We learn a lot from you as related to service learning, interactions with communities. It's more difficult for you because you have many universities. The competition is more fierce. For us, well, we are taxpayer number 1 in Sumy. You're absolutely right to point out that from science and education, we move into the direction of education and science more. I think that the budget is some 300 million hryvnias now. This is the money that goes for scientific projects. 30-40% are some real projects that we have from businesses offering them to us. So we are expanding. We have interactions with communities. It was also about the salaries of our staff, those people who stay in the city, those who do not leave it. That is why the role of university is extremely important. And we will definitely not leave, because from many there is a lot of fake news about the front line and about the advances, but it's not true. But of course, you know that we use optic fiber, we have drone attacks, and we try to protect ourselves. We are very close to the border with the enemy, so we need to protect ourselves. Yes, there's a lot of responsibility that you have as an institution. You are rector of this institution. Of course, we can only imagine the responsibility that you assumed. Before we discuss the topic of service learning projects and share our reflections about that, I have another question. And this is the question that I usually ask business. However, your role, you're leaders of institutions. What makes it difficult for you to sleep at night? Just don't tell me that you have a very good sleep. It will be difficult for me to believe that. I'm sure that there is something that doesn't give you good night's sleep. Yes, I think that almost 80% of Ukrainians have some sleep issues, unfortunately, according to some studies. Vasil has already mentioned that he represents the frontline region. I visited Sumy and Sumy University not so long ago. I think that on the day I visited Sumy, there were 3 instances, some 45-minute long instances where they didn't have the air raid alert. Otherwise, there was always alert because they were being attacked. Either it was Sumy or actually it was passing the Sumy. There are several themes which I find of concern. It's really important for us to retain talents in Ukraine. It is an important topic, but it is also part of sovereignty. I do not want to say that this is a big problem, and it's great that we have Ukrainians who have great careers in the West. I don't see it as a problem. It's important that they become ambassadors of Ukraine, that they preserve connections that they have with Ukraine. However, we understand that recovery is the task for those people who are here on the ground, and we need people for that. What I worry about is, of course, finances. We understand that it takes resources for all our dreams, all our plans to be translated into reality and to be enforced. Probably I should have started with this one, that I worry a lot about our people, and this is the 100th time that I say that, yes, we have this beautiful strategy, but for me, everything comes down to 2 questions. And the 2 questions are, what do we do for the victory? And the second question is, what do we do for our people, for them to feel supported, to make sure that they feel more resilient, that they have some time to take a break, to recover also. I think that these things are those that don't make me sleep at night. I think that yes, what doesn't make me sleep is my phone. Unfortunately, we have many attacks at night, and there's always this question: do I turn off my phone or leave it on? Because one of the most recent attacks, and actually there were many bad attacks like that. We had so many bad attacks already, so probably that was not the worst one. And then you're thinking, should I leave my phone on or off? And then at 2 in the morning, you see a picture that part of the building of the university is on fire, and it feels really surreal. You will never get used to seeing that. I can only agree that the most important thing for us is people. We have 42 buildings. We are a big university. We have one campus. We have different buildings, different premises. They are scattered around the city. We had 5 really bad attacks. Well, I wouldn't say that they are critical for our university because of the scope of the university, and what matters most to us is people. I will repeat myself, and that we have 5 directions for scientific work. We will additionally have 57 million, and of course it helps people to stay. Last year we had 100 projects, institutional projects and grants allocated. That is why it's really important that people have these opportunities in Sumy. There are several stages as far as people are concerned, because at some point people left, and we understand that most likely they will not be back because they have already integrated. And now is this phase of stabilization. That is why we have some people returning also. Money, I can only agree, and this is always a problem for rectors. We really want people to earn more, for conditions to be better, but safety is critical to us. All the buildings, basement buildings that we have, were turned into shelters. So we have all the conditions, everything. We are grateful to the Red Cross supporting us. We will also have an underground wing, so to say, as part of the medical university. We also have a project to have a full-fledged shelter. We are looking for funding. The state doesn't have the money it takes because it's for 500 people. This is what I find worrisome. But of course, people and money and safety.
Let's talk about our project. We are celebrating today the path we have covered together in the last almost 3 years. So someone comes to you and has a different topic of the meeting and then mentions ServU project. So what will be your first intellectual and emotional response about this project, and what has this project brought to your universities? I think, well, many things have been mentioned today, and they're relevant about this educational therapy, which is important. And I think we have heard today that service learning helps create and build a very deep experience of interaction with public organizations, with people, which also helps retain young people in Ukraine and preserve the talents. Julia spoke also about the fact that it comes back to people and people reconsider their own identity. But I would like to draw your attention and stress what Yaroslav mentioned in the beginning. I think that service learning in the beginning was more about this element of serving and well, making it ingrained in the learning process. But then I realized it's also about quality. I keep repeating this like a mantra that quality of education depends not only on whether you have a great researcher in the room who follows all the newest developments in this or that subject field, or whether you have a great master practitioner. If the student is not motivated, you may have whoever and do whatever. Well, the learning process will not take place. You may do whatever you want, dance and sing and what's not. It will not help. And in our conditions of war, we have many factors which reduce the motivation. It's because of the educational losses which are caused by online education of many young people. It's also connected with the traumas of war, with the sleep deprivation, with the fact that people spend more and more time on social media and communicate less with each other. This is what we can see from the research, which shows how connection in the frontline regions is lost between the children and their grandparents. And since there's no school on site, only online learning, children turn to social media more and they become more and more authoritative in the lives of teenagers and young people. And, AI offers these so-called shortcuts and may also reduce motivation. So we should be thinking of what can build this motivation. And I think that service learning can create this motivation because a young person then sees what they can do, that they can leave a trace, that they can change somebody's lives. And this can be very motivating for them, I think. And the second thing is the teachers. And I'm very grateful to our lecturers, our professors, because when I thought about service learning in the beginning, I thought not only about students, because it was all right with the students. They were actively involved into volunteering. It's just that it wasn't a part of the learning process. But I was thinking, how can a lecturer, a professor be an agent of social changes? How can we integrate it into the teacher's thinking that when you design a course, you have to think about the community, about the needs of the community, because that also impacts the motivation of the students, because the course then becomes very meaningful. It becomes very understandable to the students. And it seems to me that thanks to service learning, especially in times of war, we managed to develop and build the motivation of our students. And it's not the rediscovery of a wheel, because service learning is a part of project-based learning, and we have evidence that it works better, and we can see it from many examples that students who will work on the project, they become mature and grown-ups. I think it's not only about stimulating and motivating, but it's also about, well, capturing this motivation, because sometimes a student may be much better motivated not by a topic of a discipline, but by the opportunity to make some changes. I envy Taras in a way, and I will explain why. It's because you're quite a young university, and you've been growing on certain values without this background of this past historical period. And I will draw an example here. We used to have a subject taught by Professor Labit that was the values of the civil society. And he said that I will pass you if you write a request to the city council on a problem. That's a great approach. And that was a mandatory course for all students. And I got a call from the regional administration asking what's happening. We got like 200 or 300 requests. This is, well, bottom-to-top democracy. So for our university, this is very important because I will repeat once again, we are a part of the community, and service learning is an element of survival for university as well. And I agree that this is also an element of quality, and that's why we have involved the colleagues who deal with the internal quality assurance at our university. And I hope it will be reflected in the managerial decisions, which will become systematic. And it's not just something that we will forget about. It may be integrated into our KPIs. So I should say that this is very important. And I think it was quite timely. For a long time, we had a comprehensive targeted program of practice-oriented learning. And this practice was connected to some, well, specific places. So this was starting from some housework, homework, not just to do some exercises in the textbook, but do some specific tasks. So this was a continuation of this ideology of practice-oriented learning. So it became the service learning. Because we work in the society and we train people to work in the society, and all majors have to be society-oriented. We have many courses connected with what is called the internship. And the internship can be done and organized in many different ways. So I think we have also found a way to do it in the right way. So let us now discuss the managerial topics. Let's talk about people and money. So it's not necessarily people and money, but generally, it's good when you have a project, and when the project can gradually develop step by step. We had everything described in advance. We had to implement certain things step by step. So, for example, this project is almost over, and several other service learning projects are ending at UCU now. So, how do we institutionalize the results? How do we make it such that it's not just philosophy, even if it's good and right philosophy, but so that it's something that impacts our decisions? Because, in fact, all our, values and beliefs have value when we take decisions during the rector's council meeting, during the academic council, following these principles and following these values. And if service learning is such an important element, and we can see its use for the society, for the students, for the lecturers and professors, for all stakeholders, then how do we make next steps so that it works, so that it doesn't stop, so that we don't stop right now and don't lose the impetus? Well, Sophia, you have already started answering this question. The main thing is that we have seen the use, the benefit of service learning, that it does work, that it brings us to a new level of quality, that it helps develop the university. And then we have the motivation. But of course, it's not enough. And what is very important for me as a rector, for example, is that students say we need more of that. I listen to them. I have to listen to what the community wants to do. Or the lecturers and professors say, yeah, we have this community, but we want to extend it. We have 40 courses we offer a year, but we believe that we could offer 60. So we could extend that. So if there's a request, and if communities come and say, we have this request, we liked it, it works, let's do more, let's continue doing this. So this is very important. And then it also seems to me that it's important to see the prospects. So we had these questions today. What's next? During different panel discussions, we were looking at what can be the continuation, what can development mean in this context. And it's quite natural. We discussed this with Ola Matichuk during the break, that service learning, it's about learning or teaching. The main stress, the main emphasis, the main achievement for us as a university is that our students will learn better. Of course, we want to have changes in the communities. So we are aiming at that. And sometimes it may be the main motivation for the students, as you mentioned. But for me, as a rector of a university, and I will be completely honest about it here, for me, it's primarily educational a thing. But this is A, and we can now proceed to B. Within our alliance, when we dealt with this topic, we were thinking about communities. And it's important to see that having acquired this tool and having used it many times in a successful manner, we can now proceed to closer cooperation and another model of cooperation with the communities, because we can do this, we know how to do this, and we can see the communities not only as our partners in training our students, but also as those who commission the expertise which may be useful to them. And now I will answer this question about the resources. So hopefully the war will be over. We believe in our victory. We believe in peace, sustainable peace. And we know that Ukraine will need rebuilding, and communities will play a huge role here. Universities are a place of expertise. It's not only about the students, it's also about the professors. That's why professors also have this connection with the communities. Take colleague C, I'm not sure whether he's here or not, but take his projects with the city council, which are very interesting and which are taking place. So I think we will have the resources, and we will be able to use this tool to do more good. So if I'm right to understand, if there's a request from the students, from the lecturers and professors, that this is important, this is a tool that improves the quality of educational process and improves the outcomes for our students, this is a key and argument to convince the rector that this is something to allocate resources for, that we have to invest into that. Yes, I think we will find money for that as well. All right, so this is recipe number 1. What about recipe number 2? Yeah, I agree with what Taras mentioned. I second it, but I will probably let you in on a secret. We are a former branch of the Kharkiv Polytechnical University, and if you ask, our secret to our success, I keep telling that it's systemic management, implementation, and continuation. It's all done systematically through KPIs, through indicators measuring certain targets we are setting for ourselves. I will draw a very simple example. Last year, we managed to win 27 new projects with financing from the government. This is the largest number, the biggest number of projects we have ever won. And I'm sure that it's not only because of the research potential of our university, but also because of the management system, which supported the application process. And this already brings us resources and so on. And the representatives of the internal quality assurance system are involved there because it's also about the regulatory documents. It may sound not very academic. It's more down to earth, more managerial. But for some processes to be successful, to bring successes in the future, they have to be administered. They have to have some metrics. Someone has to follow that. There has to be reporting on that, and so on. And I'm sure that we have felt this already. And I hope that the communities represented here also felt the importance of this. And this is what helps us implement the results of the project. Yes, it's very important because you can have many different ideas, but if you don't have the system which will help implement these ideas will not be worth much. There are great books in business literature on execution, and no idea is worth anything without execution. So it's about, either research project or not a research project, but any project has to, be supported by, applications, implementations, then reporting, so that you have this opportunity to get more financing. This is an open session where you can ask questions. So please prepare your questions. And I will ask one more question, and I will open the mic to the audience. And I hope that you will use this opportunity because we have done everything to have a great discussion here. So another question of mine will be, do we have to think about going beyond our universities and spreading service learning somewhere else, like in schools, which was suggested today in the morning, for example, suggesting this methodology to schools, especially considering the fact that the schools are now transiting to the 12-year system, and we will have a high school now, which should apply project-based learning more and more. Maybe we should work with the public sector more. So how can we share service learning as a practice, as a tool, as a philosophy, as a methodology? Well, could you tell us more about it? This is more a question about the national level, because we've had discussion about the international level today, but this is about the national level.
I believe that schools is really natural environment for dissemination of these ideas, even in our case. At our university, we also have several models of cooperation with schools. Let's put it this way, we can have a UCU day for schools. So it means that pupils from schools can come to us to attend our classes, and it's of interest to them. Sometimes we do it in a different way. We go to schools, we organize some programs, and there are more profound ways of cooperation with the Lyceum of St. Sophia in Lviv. They decided to implement service learning and to introduce it. The question is about scaling, taking into consideration the Ukrainian school system, which on the one hand is extremely centralized. We have the content and everything, all of that is regulated at the level of the ministry, but it is also decentralized because money comes from the local budget. That means that we need to work at the level of the ministry as well as at the level of the region to pull it through. And it's really important that we spread these ideas, that we have the people supporting us, that we have those people who are motivated to support us with awareness raising campaigns and many other things to show the benefit, the good this approach does, how it impacts the quality of education, how it makes us more competitive, more attractive for young people, because there's a lot of competition right now. And everyone really wants to attract more students and more young talents. That is why different universities and different schools will follow suit. Another important thing that I would like to underline is the demand that we have. Because if we had a lot of demand from the communities, the way you cooperate with the municipal council, and it's really important for us, for universities, to say yes. It's not easy for us to refuse. We understand our mission. We understand that it takes expertise, the expertise that goes beyond the walls of university, actually, that it doesn't stay only at university. Because there could be demand requests coming from communities, from different parishes, church in our case. We were in one of Philadelphia parishes, and where we have Boris Hudzak, one of the founders of the university. He is an archbishop, a metropolitan. When we're considering cooperation with parishes, we started thinking about service learning projects as part of cultural studies, or history related to the parishes, some of the hubs that are distant, they're not close to us, but we can enforce different projects. If there is a person, if there are several people interested in this project, where you can organize data exchange, you can have meetings with people who belong to these parishes. The most important thing for us is to have requests, and then when we have the request, we will find the means to implement it. Probably I will focus not so much on schools, I will focus on the ministry. Why? The standards are updated, they are revised, we have new standards created, the academic community shapes these standards. We have the working groups set, consisting of our colleagues. I'm convinced that for several specialties, we can already think as part of competence-based approach, and then we will have this taken into consideration during the accreditation, because in some specialties we know that it's really critical to have service learning included. It's part of the success of our students. We are changing many of the standards that we currently have. You know that we have new working groups established. Our colleagues will be representing us in these teams, in these working groups. That is why this experience that we gained will be extremely valuable, and there will be a possibility to disseminate what we achieved. It will be extremely interesting, actually, because you know that there will be new standards, they will be updated, and it's possible to complement it with what we already have. I have already provided an example. Andriana Kostenko is present here, the chair of the department. I think it was 2017 or 2018 when there was a resolution about the fundamentals of education, of citizen education on all the levels, preschool, school level. That is why these values that we have of civil society became part of all programs. That is why we have almost 200 requests. This is a practical case. Were really interesting projects implemented. I would like really to bring it into the focus of your attention. I mean, those colleagues who are interested and those who participate in the process of building of new standards. These are new rules of game for us. Yes, this is policy making, of course, and it's really important that we stand for those senses which are important to us through standards, expectations. Understand that it's not going to work for all the specialties if you take physics or something different, but in so many of them, in so many cases, aiming at future, it's so important to focus on this particular approach. It's about interactions with communities, psychology. Yes, that's part of policy making. Yes, we also have some questions. We have a question from Gregory. Anyone else? Yes, okay. So there will be 3 questions that we will have now. I am grateful to Taras, and his university is one of the best in Ukraine. I can explain why. Because girls do not use e-cigarettes or anything like that. This is what I've been seeing a lot recently. Higher education, the Ministry of Education doesn't understand if we do not have quality physical component, Ukrainian students will not be healthy. It's going to be a disaster. And actually, that was one of the best universities when it comes to physical training. New Ukrainian school. This is the third question. There is no theory, no methodology for physical training, and there is no culture like that. When I ask my pupils about Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, they don't know anything. So culture is really important. Culture should be part of the Ukrainian education. You are doing a great job, everyone. Thank you. Would like to reflect on physical culture at our university, namely, we have 40 sports objects. It's a large-scale infrastructure. We had 100 positions before the full-scale invasion. That is why the all-Ukrainian sports game that we had, it was one of the first in Ukraine. We had 21 different kinds of sports. So we came second after the Lviv University. And that is actually in times of war, 2023, 2024, when we had the sports competition. So believe me, in universities, it's not only during our classes that we can practice, but it's important to have infrastructure. I think that this is the path to follow. And we have a football team winning the amateur league of Lviv, so it's a new start for us, and there is a long way ahead. However, Suma State University is a university which could really build something that we have in the US, for instance, because they have the culture of sports, but it's also about the audience, about attracting many people. When we have the audience rooting for those who are part of this system. And I think that it would be really important for us to set this ambitious goal, and this university could be a leading university. I'm Olha Filipishin. I am the head of Lviv School number 34, named after Marian Shashkevich. It was founded by Metropolitan Sheptytsky. We are celebrated 140th anniversary of our school. We have veterans working in our schools. In our school, we also have a social business functioning in our school. So this is not a question, this is a request. If you're interested in enthusiasts, we are in favor. We have a fruitful cooperation with the Azov service. They have interesting lectures delivered about national identity, about who we are, about the history of the Ukrainian army. And we have this need to have civil society education brought to a different level. We understand that the knowledge that our teachers have sometimes doesn't suffice to cover all of these issues. Thank you. The Center for the Development of Teaching. Yes, I think that you have captured the most important thing about this comment. I would like to express gratitude for giving me the floor, because I wanted to have this question during the previous discussion. I really like such complex questions, and I address these questions to myself also. Let's take Sumy. We heard today from Oksana that Sumy is not thinking in terms of the categories of development, because we are talking about the categories of crisis management for the city, and also have to retain people, maybe to return people. Under such difficult circumstances, the SumDU University is thinking in the categories of development. For me, ServU's service learning model is the way to impact the administrations of territorial communities, for them to start believing that even in very tough circumstances, frontline regions, we can ensure the development of territorial communities through the service of students, through student participation, cooperation with different groups of people who have different expertise. I think that when we have such tough times, it's really the time to use innovations. This is a chance to give it a try. When you find yourself in a crisis, you risk this. That's all you've got to do. In terms of the SumDU University and the results of ServU implementations, we can work with some complex cases of communities. Those communities, these could be some smaller communities as well, in need of support to change their attitude to development in times of existential threat. This is not a question, these are my reflections. Yes, it's important what you are raising. Very often it is all about definitions. Development might have different interpretations. Whenever I think about the strategy of survival, when our communities or people or cities, frontline regions, think about dignity of people, it's not about survival anymore. Because if it's about survival, it's your instinct to protect yourself, but it's about development already. It's about the future. That is why I recommend you reading the article by Olana Stashkina. She will be a keynote speaker on Saturday at our graduation. She wrote a great article about routinization of war. You remember that when the full-scale war broke out, it was a shock for everyone. It was like this spring that we all felt very tight. Then it was released. And then we started talking about post-war period, about recovery. Then we started the conversation about resilience. because there was a lot of pressure and strategically they were on top. That is why we focused a lot on resilience, on our fortitude, on our ability to withstand. We understand that the threat will not go away, even if you have, well, some ceasefire more or less stable, and the threat will always be there. We should always be aware of that. And as our colleague the Anton Drobovich, the head of the Institute of National Memory, he wrote an article about the military democracy to think about what it means actually to preserve what is the most important in democracy, but at the same time, always to be ready to fight back in case there is any. This is this positive normalization. The same way it is with shelters. We already have shelters as part of the construction code. That is why these new norms, regulations, they will be part of our lives in all the domains possible. On the one hand, we try to protect ourselves to survive, but it's also about development because we really want to have this full-fledged human life, and it speaks a lot about development. And actually, if you notice, there were no questions. It was only about proposals. Maxim, what about you? Do you have a question? I don't really have a proposal, but I'm grateful to the rector of SumDU University. It's a great city, and the role some of the institutions played during the Kursk offensive. Yes, so SumDU University has very many state orders, I mean, like corporate orders coming to your university, which is an extremely interesting case in our culture because mostly it's about a lack of trust between the business and universities. How did you manage to achieve this great result? And the question that I would like to address to both of you. We discussed the issue of comprehensive defense and the role of universities. And what about the role that universities might play from the perspective of comprehensive defense? It's an open meeting. It means that I cannot be open about everything, but we will discuss more after we win. We have very many businesses approaching us. Research oriented, also mechanical engineering. In 2022, there was a program that we started, SumDO, SumShteni, different studies conducted. Because we have the university clinic also, we have swimming pools. At the end of February, we plan to present this program to invite all the communities. We printed this program. It needs an update, of course. I believe that universities and university science is a key strategic direction which allows us, I will repeat myself, to be the university we are. And again, they choose us, but of course we also lose some colleagues because they shift to business, useful business, something very timely for the current situation, but we are proud of that, of colleagues joining a different area, because these were our university talents. And I would like to repeat myself that systemic management is important, 27 projects. It's important to be even more proactive in this part. I'm convinced that the potential of many universities is not tapped into because there is a lack of promotion, maybe a lack of self-presentation, all kinds of possibilities and opportunities. I would only like to add that it was only last year when for the first time I visited Sumy. It was after the horrific attack, the tragedy which took place, if I'm not mistaken, 35 people passed as a result of the attack. We were there a couple of days after it happened, but the city was so alive. Of course, people were mourning, but we didn't feel depressive mood or anything else like that. I was positively surprised, and I think that it's also thanks to the university, because if there is the university, it gives you the feeling that the city, the state thinking about the future, that there is some perception of the future. I think that it was Pope Francis who said that when we discuss education, this is a statement of the future.
When it comes to the on-encompassing defense, it has already been mentioned. When there are some developments, some innovations, will not be very specific here, but there are things which are already helping our defenders, and they are created in university environments with the research teams of universities. And I'm also spoke about academic diplomacy. I think that every university should be involved into this kind of diplomacy and speak about Ukraine on different platforms all around the globe, changing perception of Ukraine, decolonizing the Russia-centered views and stereotypes. This is our task, and it's not even the government who can do it well. I think people from the academia can do it much better, of course, with the support of the state through the Ukrainian Institute, through the Ukrainian Culture Fund, the Venice Biennale, or other platforms, but this can be done. And there are some things, which have changed already, but when it comes to the basic training of military training of the students, that's something that has to be done at a quality level. It shouldn't be an imitation. Young people should feel that they are learning something, that they get benefits from the course. Yesterday, we had a council of the rectors in Lviv region, and we discussed the changes. This is called the basics of the national resistance. There are different challenges connected with that. But one of the challenges is to organize a program which will differ from what children studied at school. That's the Homeland Defense as a subject. And after that meeting, I asked the following question. And I got a whole page's answer with the explanation of what should be different and with the responses from the students. This was one of the best courses in this semester. And I think when we take care of these things, then we will feel that we can't win the war alone. But if everyone adds a piece to this fence, we will finally build a fence which the enemy will not be able to break through. A lot has been mentioned today, especially by Vasil, about the standards that are changing, about the fact that it's easier to implement in some educational programs, more difficult in the others. 2 or 3 years ago, when the project was only starting, I was convinced that the programs connected with social and humanitarian majors will find it easier. But it's changed a lot last summer. Boston, MIT, their first and second year students have service and community-oriented practice, that those are engineering students, all of them. So the community, the Boston community is there, the same as in College of Engineering. First and second year students, engineers, have this internship. They work with the community. They do community needs assessment, then they develop a project, and it is only after the project, a technical project is implemented, this internship is passed. And this actually ensures sustainability of these solutions and decisions that are taken. So it seems to me that it may be quite organic that technical majors in technical universities should be able to adapt to things like that. So I have 2 points here, a suggestion and a question to the rectors. We know very well that mechatronics and robotics have been entering the study process at the UCU. And in Suma State University, technical majors, natural sciences are, well, the diamond of that university. So what is your attitude to the fact that the logical continuation of this project is Strand 3, where we can actually implement fundamental changes in Ukrainian education at the least? So what's your attitude to that? And the second one, what do you think? Do we have the capacities? I mean, Ukrainian universities, do they have the capacities to create a larger consortium so that we can do more than we have done during these 3 years? You mean in terms of service learning? Do you want to help? Then wait a minute. Very briefly, I will be very brief. I would like to thank Mykola, and I would like to add, don't forget that question, please. I would like to add here, because Mykola asked about a broader context here, and I would like to add to that because we mentioned these things. We also talked about the fact that human talents, which the universities are connected with, are multiple. We do have big educational losses, and we'll have more of them. And we mentioned schools, and we also will mentioned the importance of the communities. And by the way, when it comes to communities, we had another project funded by the Renaissance Foundation dealing with that. But we can see that there are questions to business. It doesn't think about that. There's a question to some NGOs. While residents, I do have data here, they have a very good idea about the development, so we need to work with them. But the question is, and this is what I would like to hear about, to what extent are we ready not only to build these coalitions and to have a broader view, to what extent are we ready to create some joint products which will exist not only in the inter-university environment, like university plus school, universities plus institutes, I mean, the structures outside the university. So what do you think? Can other players in education at different levels of education can cooperate to and co-create these educational products for the benefit of the communities? Do you remember the question? So are you ready to, tread into deeper waters with other partners? Well, these are complicated questions, but they are the right ones. Yes, I do agree with Mykola that service learning is about the pedagogy. And of course, pedagogical methods may work better in this or that case. And in these circumstances or those circumstances, we also speak about the pedagogy in times of war. So we can look at it in other contexts as well and look at the pluses and minuses. But generally, pedagogy works in any area. It may be more complicated when it comes to the projects that are implemented, because we would like these projects to be not just the volunteer projects, but we would like them to have the educational value so that the learning outcomes of a course or a program align with that as well. So sometimes projects need more than one semester. For a service learning project to be not just a process, but to have a result, it may need more time. And this is a challenge for young people because they frequently study to get a pass and then they will let it go. And sometimes you need at least a year to implement a project. When it comes to technical projects, you need more time because you build models then. And this is partially an answer to Dmitro. In our case, we looked for different models. The sustainability, the feeling of the sustainability will appear when I see that we have a model which works, which is institutionalized, where we have people responsible for it, where we have the drive among teachers, we have requests among students, we have methodological materials, we deal with, well, and build relations with communities and NGOs, but we haven't reached that level you mentioned, Dmitro. I think it should be, well, the next stage. You know, I've been a rector for the 10th day. Today, well, this is my second cadence, but this is the 10th day of my second cadence today, and I will explain why I'm mentioning that. It's because when you sign a contract, the state universities have KPIs for a rector, and this was, of course, a team product. We discussed with the colleagues, with vice rectors, what KPIs will be not too much. And when I submitted this document to the respective department of our ministry, when I shared this document with them, I was told to get rid of the figures. Then I asked why. And they said, because other universities will be frustrated. And, you know, I believe in alliance of Ukrainian universities. And I hope that tomorrow we will have a forum, and I hope that this center will help us crystallize something new. And we are today in a completely new university, and we'll repeat again that UCU is a special phenomenon in Ukrainian education. You're a private university, and many things are easier to change here. But I'm optimistic that even with the standards and other things, we will be able to implement it. It may be not that easy. It will be a long process and not an easy one. This is what Mykola mentioned, for example, that when it comes to technical majors, it works very well. Yes, it might be possible, but what I like about the philosophy of management of UCU, I don't know it very well, but it seems to me it's more based not on some technocratic things like the procedures that are prescribed or operational documents, but it seems to be more based on trust, on support, on teamwork. This is a community based on certain values which are important. And then it's much easier to implement things like a project like this. Then you can actually implement it other majors, even technical majors. And I'm sure you will be developing these majors successfully. I'm sure you will do great there. I would like to add just a little bit, answering both questions at the same time. I've just recalled that when we established the alliance and we wanted to have communities in the focus, we started creating the product and thinking about it. That this product was the back office. So what was the value of that model? these are very different universities with different expertise, and no university can provide the complete expertise that is needed by a specific community in their situation. So we could see how teams discussed it and how they supplemented the needs of, for example, Nikopol community or Shostka community. We had frontline communities there. So it seems to me that we will get back to that in the future. But such a back office which could work on behalf of the universities, transmitting this and translating this expertise into the life of the communities, this could be this product, as Metro mentioned it. Thank you. For us to finalize our panel discussions in a nice way, I have a final question. What is your dream? I dream about my vacation, holidays. Okay, vacation. I dream of Ukraine's victory. That's obvious. I think we all dream of that. And for us to be safe, and then we can go on vacation. You know, vacation, yes, victory first and foremost, peace first and foremost, because, 10 strikes in Sumy and at a night, that's very painful. So victory, victory, and victory as soon as possible. Whenever I congratulate someone on something, I wish optimism and resilience, but we're all tired. So we really need a very strong program for the support of mental health. It has to be very well developed, but victory is most important. Thank you all very much. This was a very sincere discussion. Thank you for that. We know you don't have answers to all questions, and that's okay. That's very human. And that's why we have so many people in this room to help you find the answers to these questions and not just provide you with suggestions, but also help you implement these suggestions. So let us thank the participants of the panel. We have small presents for you. Taras has our book. Vasil doesn't have it yet. We also have nice candles, souvenirs. And let us take a picture. Thank you. And this was a long day. I think it was very productive. I think we've had more questions than answers, but that's okay. That's the regular process of how it all works at a university. And now I'd like to invite everyone who's on site, who's here with us, to celebrate the conclusion, the end of our project, a successful conclusion of this project. So please get up, congratulate each other, take pictures, give each other a hug, and remember that human relations are worth a lot because a lot starts from them, then there's trust, and then there are great results. Thank you all very much. And I would like to thank the technical team who created this magic for us today, the School of Journalism today, and the team who organized this conference.